My name is Clara, and this video is covering Common Core Math Standard 5.NF.B.3. In the video, I'm going to do a brief overview of the standard, give you some mathematical examples, and then we'll take it to the kitchen for some real-world examples. So this standard is really one of my favorites. I love it because it seems very simple. It's saying that a fraction can be written as a division expression. Seems simple. But if you ask an adult or an older student if they remember that 1/2 is equivalent to 1 divided by 2, they probably won't remember. It's a very useful bit of information just to make yourself more comfortable with fractions. You can remember the value of a fraction is just the value of a division problem. Also, it can be useful for converting fractions to decimals. So let's go back to that 1/2. 1/2, that can be written as 1 divided by 2. If you want to find the, if you want to write 1/2 as a decimal, you could do 1 divided by 2, and that will give you 0.5 or 5/10. Take 5/8. 5/8, we can write that as 5 divided by 8. And divide 5 by 8 if we want to find the decimal value of 5/8. Now let's take a fraction that's got a larger numerator than denominator, like 9/5. We can write that as 9 divided by 5, and you see that the value of 9/5 is greater than 1, which makes sense. That's an improper fraction, right? So that's basically what this standard is covering. A fraction has the same value as a division expression. All fractions can be written as the numerator divided by the denominator. The values are the same. So let's think about this some more in the context of real-world situations, because the second half of this standard is heavy on real-world examples. We're in the kitchen now for some real-world examples. This is my daughter, Joya. You might see her running around. Can you say hi, Joya?
Hi.
Okay, well, for the first examples, I'm going to use these oranges. Let's start with a problem that you might think of as simpler. So let's say we have 6 oranges, and you want to share them equally among 3 people. So this is a division problem. We can solve it using 6 divided by 3. And 6 divided by 3 is 2. Now let's change the problem a little bit and use the standard to solve it. So let's say we had 3 oranges, and we want to share them evenly among 6 people. So that is a division problem. 3 divided by 6. And using our standard, we know that we can write that as a fraction, 3 over 6, or 3/6. And we can simplify to find that each person is going to get 1/2 of an orange. Okay, let's do another one. Let's say we had 9 oranges. And we want to share these equally between 2 people. So that's a division problem. 9 divided by 2. We can write that as a fraction, 9/2, and then simplify it to 4 1/2. So each person gets 4.5 oranges. We can also visualize it using these oranges. So if you were going to divide these 9 oranges into 2 equal groups, you'd end up with 4 oranges in each group. And you'd have this 1 orange left over. And that's going to be divided into halves. So each person's going to get 4.5 oranges. Okay, let's look at one more. I have some pitas here, and we can use these to visualize a problem. Let's say we had 3 pitas, okay, and 2 people want to share these, so they each get the same number of pitas. So that's going to be 3 divided by 2. We can write that as a fraction, 3 halves, and simplify it and say, well, each person's going to get 1 1/2 pita. 1 1/2 pitas. So here, let's see if we can illustrate that a little bit better. There we go. Each person will get 1 1/2 pitas. Okay, the final part of this video will cover models. So different ways to model these problems. Let's think about this problem. What if you had 3 pounds of flour and you wanted to use all the flour to make 4 cakes? Okay. So how many pounds of flour are you going to use for each cake? We can write an equation to represent this answer. So if we want to divide 3 pounds of flour by 4, that is 3 divided by 4, which we know is 3/4. Okay? So there is our answer. You're going to use 3/4 of a pound of flour per cake. We can also visualize this using circles, okay, or any sort of fraction model. Let's say we use a square to represent 1 whole. So those are your 3 pounds of flour. If we want to divide this 4 ways, we can divide each whole into fourths. Okay. And you see we have 12 fourths. And 12 divided by 3, 12 divided by 4 is 3. So that's a good way to visualize that you're going to use 3/4 of flour for each cake. You can also use a number line. This way might not be as intuitive, but you can use a number line to model the same thing we did here, where you've got maybe a number line from 0 to 3. Okay, so those are your 3 pounds of flour, and you divide each whole into fourths. And it's just another way to see that to divide 3 into 4 equal parts, you end up with 4 parts that each contain 3/4. So you think of it this way. Here's 1 part, 2 parts, 3 parts, 4 parts. Okay, and each of these parts is 3/4 of a unit, or 3/4 of a pound wide. Okay, so these are a few ways you can model these types of problems. You could use an equation, you can use fraction models, and maybe even a number line. Okay, see you for the next video.